Have you ever had a teacher with literally no common sense? My history teacher was convinced I was cheating because I knew too much about history. I'm serious. Her logic was basically, teenagers don't know this stuff unless they use AI. Mrs. Parker transferred to our school during junior year. On the first day of class, she announced that artificial intelligence was the biggest threat to education in modern history, which was a dramatic thing to say in a history classroom. I've always loved history. While other kids watch TikTok before bed, I watched documentaries about ancient Rome and listened to podcasts about World War II. I was that weird kid. I liked it. Our first assignment was a paper about the causes of the American Revolution. I spent an entire weekend writing it. 3 days later, Mrs. Parker called me to her desk. She was holding my paper with 2 fingers like it might explode. This isn't your work. I actually laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. No 17-year-old writes like this. I explained that I'd always loved history and had shelves full of books at home. She shook her head. You used AI. I offered to show her my notes. She refused. I offered to explain every source I'd used. She refused. I even showed her the outline I'd written. Didn't matter. She gave me a 0. Word spread quickly. A week later, she accused another student because he used the phrase geopolitical consequences. Apparently, that was suspicious vocabulary. Then she accused a girl on the debate team because her essay had too many citations. At this point, everyone was terrified to do well. For our next assignment, I decided to experiment. I intentionally wrote a terrible essay. Short sentences, simple words. I even misspelled a couple things. It physically hurt me. When she handed it back, I'd gotten a C, but there was another note. See me after class. I sat down across from her desk. She folded her hands. You're deliberately making your writing worse. I blinked. I'm sorry. What? You're trying to throw me off. I just stared at her. So writing too well is cheating. And writing badly is also cheating. She nodded. Exactly. To this day, I still don't know what she expected from me. Then came the midterm. A handwritten in-class essay. No phones. No computers. No notes. Nothing. The prompt was, compare 2 historical leaders and explain how they used public image to gain support. I wrote 6 pages. I compared Julius Caesar and Napoleon. I quoted things I'd read for fun. I left that exam feeling amazing. A week later, I got it back. Big red F. Across the top, she'd written, I know what you did. I marched to her desk. Mrs. Parker, I wrote this in class. By hand, sitting right there. She leaned forward. You could have memorized an AI response. I thought she was kidding. She wasn't. Nobody your age compares Napoleon's propaganda techniques to modern political branding. I didn't even know how to respond. Finally, I pulled out my phone. I showed her pictures of my bedroom, 3 overflowing bookshelves, history documentaries in my watch list, pages of notes I'd taken over the years. I even showed her a notebook I'd been keeping since middle school called Interesting Dead People. She stared at it. I flipped through pages. Ancient Egypt, the Roman Empire, the Cold War, every page covered in messy handwriting. I do this for fun, I said. She looked genuinely confused. Why? I shrugged. Because I like history. She seemed unable to process that. The next day, my mom came to school, but she didn't yell. She brought a box. Inside were old school projects, essays from middle school, book reports from elementary school, a history fair project I'd made when I was 10. Apparently, I'd been writing ridiculously detailed papers my entire life. Then my mom suggested something. Give her a topic right now. Mrs. Parker agreed. She handed me a blank piece of paper. Write about any historical event. I smiled. Any event? She nodded. Big mistake. I spent 30 minutes writing about the assassination of Julius Caesar and how historical myths change public memory. When I finished, she read it silently. The room was completely quiet. Finally, she looked up. This is impressive. Still not an apology, but it was close. The principal reviewed everything and changed my grades. Mrs. Parker was required to stop using gut feelings as evidence of cheating. But here's the funniest part. At the end of the year, she gave us a final survey. One question asked, what surprised you most about this class? I wrote, learning that knowing history is historically suspicious. A week later, I found out she'd kept my essay about Caesar. Apparently, she used it as an example for future classes. So after spending an entire year insisting I couldn't possibly have written it, she started teaching with it. Honestly, that's probably the most historically accurate thing she did all year.